Good morning, everybody. Welcome to First Church of Religious Science here in New York City. Welcome to our Sunday morning service. To all of you who are signing in on Zoom today from all over the world, it's a joy and privilege to welcome you here to our gathering. Whether you're with us in the studio, we always have a studio audience as well as our broadcast all over to all the states and now many countries in the world. And many of you, again, we have to welcome our people on YouTube. You're a growing audience, and Facebook as well. We broadcast 24 hours a day, so if you ever miss a lesson or you want to hear a rebroadcast, just go to our links that are in the chat. Find our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and you can listen to all of our broadcasts. So our commitment, by the way, is to have free access for everybody. So go there and enjoy the lessons. You can listen to them again and again. Now we have broadcasts on Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Jimmy is facilitating a creative living series every Wednesday at 7 p.m. And then I have been facilitating the Louise self-healing class. That's every Thursday at 7. It's the same links for all of our events. So please join us whenever you can. The self-healing class, again, is based upon the book You Can Heal Your Life, written by our own Louise, who was on staff here as a practitioner and minister quite a few years ago. We are committed here to ensuring that these teachings are available to everybody freely who want to hear them and who are looking to heal their lives. I want to thank all of you also who are now supporting the center. Your contributions help keep us going. A lot's involved in doing all this technology, so we want to thank you for whatever contributions that anyone makes, however large or small. They're all important. The most important thing, though, is that you're here and that you're growing, and we hear your demonstrations. We get your letters, we get your messages. And then we have time after every gathering for personal sharing. And that's really become a really important part of the center, because a part of our service and our activities, because we get to grow together. We get to see how there is growth. And so just everyone loves hearing personal sharing. Never feel that you're compelled to. We'll always invite you to. Might call your name. If you don't feel like sharing, you may want to just say, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm from wherever you are. But the main thing is your presence. So thank you for joining us, making that choice. My experience over the years is the people who tune in often, especially to like the self-healing class, you'll see you'll see a big difference. So there will be a quickening if you stay with it. From another program I'm fond of, they used to say, you got to want it. And so assuming, people don't wind up in places like this or gatherings like this by accident. So if you're here, congratulations. And what I would simply say is just keep coming back, because the more you listen and the more you tune in, the more we're going to keep reminding you of the truth of who you are and the power that you have at your disposal. Already spoken about the classes. Today I have a special class. I have all of Raymond Charles Barker's lessons, either in manuscript, in some cases in audio. And a lot of it's dated, but I'd say 2/3 of them are really, really insightful and good. So today I have one, and I have a poem that precedes it. And I remove the things that will make no sense, like references to people in his congregation, but I attempt to keep the pearls of wisdom for you. So as we prepare to dive into one of these lessons, inspired by the timeless insight of Raymond Charles Barker, let's first reflect upon today's gathering with a poem. The poem, like Barker's teachings, invite us to embrace the present moment, and empower ourselves through positive thinking. It's entitled Today's Embrace. In the now we find our strength. In today our dreams take length. Gone are the shadows of yesterday. In the present, our spirits play. With each breath, a new start. In each moment, a work of art. Life's canvas, bright and vast. In today, we're not defined by the past. For we are today's people, bold and bright. In our hearts, a flame alight. With thoughts of hope, we pave the way. In the embrace of today, we find our way. As we move into Raymond Charles Barker's classic lesson, let's carry the essence of this poem in our hearts. And so we begin. The lesson was called The Key Idea, and it will be presented again with a little bit of a modern touch to preserve the spirit of his words and his humor that make it impactful or so impactful. Pretend you're listening to Barker for the most part. You'll know when I tune in. Good morning. We are today's people with a today idea. This instruction is not based on a traditional religion or traditional religions, nor is it based on old scriptures or dogma that you might have learned in the past. We have no dogma here that limits us in any way. This lesson, the key idea, is for today. It's for today's people. And let me say for the people who are not of today, and I know there's still quite a few people left out there teaching and preaching the old religions, even though those old religions are dying out everywhere. I'll tell you, you can still find them though if you want. There's still people preaching them. But here we have a new teaching. Our teaching is not bound to the past in any way. It's not bound by a prophet. So what is this new idea? The new idea is that whatever life is, you are it. Again, whatever life is, you are it. Whatever it is, it's creative. You are creating life. You are creating life. It is love, and it's you, and you are love. Wherever life is, it is this divine energy, and you're part of this divine energy. You are part of it. It's that simple. So once again, Barker said, you're creating life. Whatever it is, you're it. You are creating it. It's love. You are love. Whatever it is, whatever this God is, you are it. Whatever this divine energy is, you are it. You're part of it. And it's that simple. He wanted to emphasize. He went on. Wherever life is, it is God or source. And you are one with this source. And he said, it's that simple. You're the whole thing, he said. And he said, you're going to say, well, if that's the case, why do negative things happen to me if I'm the whole thing? I'm going to tell you today. He said, most of you here at our gathering already know. But in case you're new to new thought, I'm going to tell you. But before I go there any further, let's just relax for a moment. Let's do an affirmative prayer together. Let's take an affirmative prayer into our subconscious mind. And I'm going to do it in the first person so that as you hear it, it becomes your own affirmative prayer treatment for yourself. So relax for a moment. Breathe in. And know, I am a today person and a today consciousness. I'm not a child any longer. I have grown up and I've become an adult. I'm empowered to think, empowered to act, and empowered to be what I decide to be. I'm a person of today with today's mind, today's emotions, today's outlook. I'm fresh. I'm fresh with today's ideas. I'm alive in today. I'm whole and I'm good. Knowing that there is but one God, one energy, one mind, one spirit, one truth, and one intelligence. And this intelligence functions in me, through me, as me, and right here and right now. And so it is. So it is. So that's a great opening. So today's talk from Barker was called The Key Idea. And as much as possible, I'm keeping his words. He's colorful, I can promise you, and sometimes he's outrageous. I'm omitting the references again to people and events that would make no sense to anyone today, but keeping his personality as much as possible and adding only where it would amplify his points. In this lesson, at one point, he says, "I don't want to die stupid." And I laughed. I thought, maybe I should omit that phrase. But I thought, no, I have to include it because that's part of his personality. In the talk, he said, "When I go, I don't want to die stupid." So there it is. That was Barker, and I didn't want to deprive anyone of some of his outrageousness. And if you were to hear his original talk, which you still can listen to, you would know he was attempting to be humorous. Sometimes his jokes fell flat. Sometimes they were outrageous. And you'd have to listen to a lot of his talks to understand. But with this talk, the key idea, he went on to say, we're a today people planning a good tomorrow. And he went on to say, how many of your friends and loved ones are truly planning a great day and a great tomorrow? Most of the people I associate with don't think this way. They don't operate with a deep positive expectancy about today or tomorrow. If you really learn this teaching, and if you practice it, it can open you up to great good in every single area of your life. Now, let me give you a couple examples. I'll change the names. Let's consider a lady, Sarah. She's one of our people, recently moved to another area. I was very fond of her. Sarah was often speaking about her fear of the future. She worried about everything from her children's safety to financial instability. And despite her outwardly positive demeanor, she always was quite worried. She came to classes, but she didn't really practice the teaching. So this was always, it's a bit upsetting because she was bright, but she simply didn't practice it. Or then we have John, who regularly volunteers his time on the front reception desk. Yet frequently he's expressing to whoever will listen his doubts about whatever his efforts are, if they make any real difference with the church or in his life. We, of course, at the church value John very much because we don't have anybody to answer the door, and he's doing something really valuable to us. But John doesn't think he is doing anything valuable in his life, and see, that's a problem. And I could give you many other examples of people that I personally like, are valuable to me. There's nothing wrong with them. But wherever I give you an example like this, it's just where people are in their own personal journey. Everyone's on a spiritual journey. So I'm giving you examples of people who they're in their own spiritual evolution. And then there's a good number of people in the congregation who contact me every month, and sometimes every week, without realizing that when they call, they're somewhat acting as prophets of doom. And I listen, and we had a practitioner here who would take a lot of these calls, and he would listen, and then he would take them into prayer treatment. The thing is, people don't pay attention to what they're saying and what they're thinking. And when you come into this teaching, that's one of the things we really have you start to do. We have you start listening to your internal dialogue. There was another case where we had a choir director who constantly predicted that people didn't want to do his songs and they didn't want to come and sing the songs. And he wasn't realizing how he's the director and how his thoughts were shaping reality. When I look at people and I listen and I see them, or they come into my office, I see them differently than they see themselves. Any good trained practitioner will see them differently too. The practitioner, the minister, is there to see the whole person. Whole meaning whole and complete, supplied and supported. So when I look at people and I listen, I see them much differently than they see themselves, because I'm always expecting something good and something better to happen than what they're describing. So if you're ever going to go to a practitioner, know that that's what they're up to. They're going to see you as being whole and complete and supplied and supported, because that's what we teach here. We're trying to shift perspectives from a passive acceptance of negativity, which most people have, to an active cultivation of hope and positivity. Let me repeat that. That's a very good line. In our center, past and present, we're trying to shift perspectives from a passive acceptance of negativity, which most people have, to an active cultivation of hope and positivity. I hope some of you wrote that one down. I'll say it a third time. We're trying to shift perspectives in the teaching from people to get out of having a passive acceptance of negativity to an active cultivation of hope and positivity. We're going for, again, the word we use often, positive expectancy. This is what we're hoping to achieve in all of our classes, gatherings, and activities. It's about seeing beyond immediate challenges and envisioning and knowing a brighter, more fulfilling future is at hand. So Barker thought that there's this passive acceptance of negativity that's running underneath in the consciousness of most people. And he really was challenging his congregation to shift that perspective from this passive acceptance of negativity to an active cultivation of hope and positivity to get us to what we talk about today, to where most of our people have positive expectancy. And he went on again to say, as I've already said, it's about seeing beyond the immediate challenges and envisioning and absolutely knowing a brighter and more fulfilling future. So he went on to say, there's always something better that can happen. There's always something better that will happen. But again, it's entirely up to you to have that happen. And he said that will happen as people let go of their fears and they get more involved with self-healing and self-realization. All of our activities here will bring you towards greater self-realization, realizing you have the power. And it'll bring you towards self-healing, and where you'll start to understand every thought you think is creating your future. So Barker then says, you can improve your life. You can heal your life. Today I'd like to share a passage from the textbook that used to be sung at First Church every Sunday. We build a new tomorrow. We draw the pattern clear. We make our plans with wisdom, for mind is ever here. Our thinking makes our future. Our actions pave the way. We build a new tomorrow on patterns formed today. So back to Raymond Charles Barker, our founder here at First Church of Religious Science, again, teacher to Louise, author of Power of Decision, other books, Treat Yourself to Life, Money is God in Action, The Science of Successful Living, and many other books and articles. He always spoke emphatically and somewhat humorously on what he called the key idea. So we continue. He said, yesterday and earlier I did a good deal of thinking. What's the most important idea there is in the entire universe? What one single idea would I select as being the most important in the entire system of life? He said, it became very obvious to me. The key idea would be myself, because I'm the key to the whole thing. And you're the key to the whole, you're the key to your whole thing. The greatest single concept you can have about anything is yourself. And now that everyone in the country is meditating, it's going to do a lot of good, because it's going to make a lot more people aware that they're the whole bit. That the greatest single concept you can have about anything is yourself. They're going to become aware of what the individual really is. And that's the whole end. It's what every prophet is trying to teach. It's what every savior has tried to teach. It's what every philosopher has ever tried to say. That you and you alone are the key to your own experience. I'm the key to my experience. So why do troubles come upon me, he asked that day. If you're caused your own experience, then why are you having all these troubles? They come to me because I either create them or I accept them. From the Bible, it will say, the rain falls on the just and the unjust, but the just don't get wet, he said. And then he laughed. It's written in bold print that the rain falls on the just and the unjust. And then he joked, but the just don't get wet. Back to the real question. Why does trouble come to me? Why does trouble come to you? And he answered this emphatically. He said, because I usually expect trouble. I think the key word is, if you want a successful today and tomorrow, the key words are, what are you expecting? And what are you imagining? And many of the lessons we've done in the 2020s, we're talking about, what's it like being you? What are you expecting? What are you imagining? But back to Barker, he says, what are you expecting? What are you imagining? And he said, I think you'll find your answers if you do some serious work on it. Just pay attention to that inner dialogue. Pay attention to what your expectations are. Pay attention to what you're imagining. He went on to say, because most people expect trouble and they imagine trouble. He went on to say, last Monday afternoon, a student in my class said to me, with all that we know today about every aspect of health and wholeness, everything we know, he said, health isn't the miracle anymore. He said, disease is the miracle. It just shouldn't happen. Do you hear me? And I thought about it, and I said, you're right. With all that we know about health, the miracle is not health. The miracle is, why on earth do I get sick? And we could take this into any other area of our life. You go where your mind takes you. Your expectation and imagination are always going to be the keys. So you know what, by the way, just start watching people. Watch how they think, what they talk about, how they talk. You see, when we talk, we're always giving ourselves away. You can always tell a critic when you hear the word should being thrown around quite a bit. Should and, all these synonyms for should. We can only guard our tongue for so long before we give ourselves away. Eventually the truth comes out, Barker said. He said it's like the people that are always smiling that drove him crazy. He said, I don't know how they've learned to manage their face, to be smiling all the time. And he went on to say, I like a natural smile, so it brightens up occasionally. He said, I'm a little suspicious of these people smiling around me all the time. He said, maybe it's just me. I'm thinking a bit, he said, I don't smile all the time. I smile quite a bit. He said, in the same way I'm not frowning, I'm not angry all the time. And I don't usually lose my temper. But when I do, oh boy. And then he commented, I almost lost my temper last week. Not quite, but I got near to it. It's been years since I lost my temper. So I told somebody in the office, I said, it's a good thing I didn't, because when I do it good. And he was recalling an incident in his office. And he said, the people on 5th Avenue in Madison could have known it. And then he went back to the lesson. He said, the important question here, the important points in this talk and the key idea is, what do I imagine? What is it that goes on in my head? What do I imagine? Like we do in 2023, where we say, what's it like being you? What do you imagine? And what do I expect? What do I imagine and what do I expect were his questions? Because that's going to determine the whole thing. So that's the message for 2023 as well. What do you imagine and what do you expect? That's the key, because you are the key to your own story. No one can operate your life but yourself. Barker said, no one can operate my life but myself unless I let them do it. He said, now if I let them do it, then again, it's my responsibility. So for all of us who are giving our power away to people, places, and things, can't blame anybody. If we're giving our power away to people, places, and things, now they have Al-Anon and CODA and other programs for that. If we're giving our power away, then again, it's our responsibility. So he goes on to say, and I suppose there's always those occasions when we do let someone else run our lives to some degree for some reason. But if someone does run your life, you have arranged it that way. You always need to remember that. You have arranged it rather conveniently that way. He says, then you've got someone else to blame for your own life, your own mistakes. So be aware, fess up to it. You might have this inner dialogue that, well, if they told me to do it, she told me, my mother told me, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, whatever. And he said they did a great job. But so if you go on with this, they told me to do it, and you try to put it on someone else. He said, but I always know this. If somebody's running my life, it's because I have agreed to it. I have allowed it. Louise later would say we're each 100% responsible for everything that happens in our lives. So Barker in this talk was saying it's our expectations. What do I expect? What do I imagine? Those are the keys that determine the whole thing. You are the key to your own story. No one except you is running your life unless you're giving them permission to do so. You've arranged it, he said, again, rather conveniently that way. So let's be honest about it. So if someone runs our life, it's because we've agreed to it. Or he went on to say, and if someone runs my life, it's because I'm either ignorant of what life really is or I want it that way. So some people are doing it maybe out of ignorance. When you come into a teaching like this, though, we don't let anybody get away with that. There is that which is within you that knows. And so we're always about having you understand that your life is a reflection of you. So there's no ignorance here. If someone's running our lives, we've made a decision. Now here's the good news. You can, starting now, you can change your mind and you can do it a different way. Barker's words now. Now life is really intelligence in action. I repeat, life is really intelligence in action. It is mind in action. It is emotion in action. It is God in action. That's what life is. Again, intelligence in action, it's mind in action, it's emotion in action, it's God in action. You have it, and I have it, and it's ours. It's a free gift. We didn't select it, we were born with it. Life is intelligence in action. Life is mind in action. It's emotion in action, and it's cause in action, or God in action. Spirit in action. And it is mind to use, and it's your mind to use, my mind to use. I don't need to use it. I can sit back and I can join the crowd. Ernest Holmes in the teaching said there's power for good in the universe, and you can use it. So here you are. You have all this power. You're using it either intelligently, constructively, or it's responding to you anyway. Life responds to your thoughts, your thinking, your consciousness. So he said, I can sit back and join the crowd, the people who are unaware. I can sit back and join the majority who accept the fact that life is difficult, and poor me, that life is so hard. He says, but I don't sit back and accept that because it's not hard. It's not meant to be hard. Life was not meant to be a struggle. Suffering is not God ordained. Life wasn't meant to be a fight. Not at all. That's what the crowd thinks. That's what the collective thinks. And you know, the crowd is the crowd. It's the majority. It's the vast majority. The people out there, the collective. Lately, we're learning up to 0.75% of the population leans towards negative thinking. And there are many imposing names in this crowd of people. Many supposed authorities in this great negative crowd. And so when you say, I don't go along with it, which many of you in this teaching are original thinkers. Many of you in this teaching are learning to read Emerson, and you're learning to trust yourself and trust that spirit within, and you think for yourself. So you don't go along with the crowd, or you don't go along maybe with some of the politicians, and you start thinking for yourself. And people get startled when a thinker is let loose upon the planet, so said Emerson. Barker commented, I don't think the world is going to hell. I don't think it's going to pot. I think it's been a mess, but I don't know when it hasn't been a mess. The question is, who caused the mess? Who caused the world to be the way it is? And he answered, he said, all of us, meaning the human race, the human mind. He went on to say, I have a lot of hope for the world. I'm not expecting the world to go to pot. I'm not expecting my own life to go to pot. He said, I refuse to die of any of the diseases that they're trying to tell me that I'm going to die of. And then he laughed at himself, and he said, I thought I'd get a better laugh from you when I said I refuse to die of any of the diseases. And he chuckled at his own joke. So then he went on to say, and I want to say this for the rest of you. I want you to think the same way. Just refuse to die of all the diseases that everyone claims that you're destined to go with. He said, we're not just mere beings drifting in this vastness of the universe. He said, each one of us are vibrant. Each one of us are full. We're whole. We're complete entities. Each one of us is a unique outlet of Source's dynamic activity, a living testament to the boundless energy and creativity of the divine. Absolutely, absolutely refuse to succumb to the shadows of diseases that claim to dictate your destiny. Talk about your health wherever you can. Instead, rise above, embrace the fullness of your existence. You're not destined to fade away in the clutches of some ailment. You are meant to shine, to thrive, and to be an example of vitality and vigor. And when the time comes in the distant future to transition from this place to the next, we'll do it with grace. Let it be a peaceful journey akin to taking a slumber from which you don't awaken, crossing the threshold with dignity and tranquility. He said, this is the way I want to go. This is the noble passage, the decent way to embrace the eternal. But wait, he said, there's more to this magnificent journey. The divine, the good, the great God beckons us to ponder. If one disease doesn't mark your end, they say another might. They'll present you with a long and daunting list. But don't worry about this. This isn't our truth. Remember the words of all the great teachers who said, I am not of this world. I'm sure he's referring to Jesus. They understood the limitations of worldly thought, and they transcended them to convey profound truths. They knew that to make a real impact, one must rise above the mundane. You must rise above the people and the masses and the ordinary. You, he said, my dear friend, are the key. You always have been. You're the architect of your own destiny. You're the author of your own experience. No one else writes your story. The final chapter, as a dear friend has said to me many years ago, has not been written. It doesn't matter if your life has been a tragedy or a vale of tears or whatever it has, whatever you've gone through. Everything that you've gone through has brought you to the place where you are now. The final chapter has not been written, starting here, starting now, whether you're 8 or you're 88, or anywhere in between. It can be a whole new thing. So you have the power to be in a new moment with new expectations. But your day-to-day consciousness is what we're always talking about at First Church. Every Thursday we'll ask the question, what it's been like being you. Where you pay attention to your thoughts, your beliefs. Your day-to-day consciousness is creating your life. The 12-step programs have always had a little bit of a leg up on many of the religions, except ours, because we do it as well. Because they do inventories. They'll have an inventory of their life, and they also have a daily inventory. So we want to learn from that too when we meditate and we pray, and we do our affirmative prayer treatment. Because we understand that our day-to-day consciousness, how we manage our thoughts, our beliefs, is creating our life. It's easy to feel uplifted and cheery on a serene Sunday afternoon at 11:15, seated in the comfort of your own home or here in our studio audience. But the true challenge, the real adventure, rather, is maintaining that positivity throughout the week. It requires a certain amount of effort to keep practicing the presence and knowing that we're connected. To do that is you move through the day, through the afternoon and the evening, to be the guardian at the gate, to be aware, to be present, to be intentional about it. It's very easy to slip into what Barker called negation, into doubt, into fear. But remember always, you are a complete individual. You're a conduit of divine activity, and you're the master of your own destiny. You are the author of your own experience, as we say many weeks. So we want to embrace this journey with all the excitement and passion that it deserves. We have the power. We are inlets and outlets. We have all the power in the world at our disposal. You got to build up this consciousness. We do it through affirmations and affirmative prayer. The question that was asked of Barker, how do I control my consciousness? He said, by saying that you are in control of your consciousness and by believing it. And people would ask Dr. Barker, how do I get what I want? And he would say, by saying you already have it and really believing what you say. You must believe in your own words in general. He said the problem with people is they don't want to change their mind. A lot of people talk about the things they want, but they don't really want to change their mind. And they really don't want to change their emotions. So he said these are things that we have to get past. Often people just hope that things will change and things will work out. But hope is not enough. You see, these are his words again. I believe that life, being a form of intelligence, needs to be directed intelligently. It requires thoughtful planning, careful scheduling, and genuine motivation. Without these, life lacks significant purpose. Deep-seated motivation, reason, planning, and scheduling are important, he stated. With these, you have every reason in the world to expect that life is going to respond to you. However, life won't just propel itself forward. Something is required of it. Life will keep your body functioning, your brain active, but you're the person. You have executive power that Holmes spoke of. So you need to start making decisions. You must take responsibility, and responsibility is something that many people actively try to avoid. Instead, a great deal of the world blame everything that happens upon others so they can absolve themselves from taking any responsibility and or inquiring within. You have spirit within you that will answer you. You have an internal guidance system. Finally, when people face themselves in the mirror, they see the true cause. They also see the continuity of their life, and they see that how they are projecting the things they are projecting. And when looking deeply in the mirror, it's not just your face staring back at you, it's something deeper. It's about looking past your face to the brain, to the seat of your consciousness. Because in essence, consciousness is all there is. We teach that every week. Consciousness is all there is. We live, we move, we have our being in it. So this is why the mystics have always been correct. They've always been right. We talk about the mystics, we read about them, we listen to their teachings with interest. But often, then we continue on our way without truly taking in their wisdom. They're always teaching us everything is God. We live in it, we move in it, we have our being in it. The teachers have always emphasized that an individual's thinking and feeling nature is what defines them. The body and the experiences are secondary. People listen to these teachings, they listen to the mystics, they nod in agreement because it's such beautiful, but quickly forget. Raymond Charles Barker said, consider the Sermon on the Mount, whether it was actually spoken or a collection of teachings placed in scriptures. The point remains, how many listeners, mere minutes after hearing the Sermon on the Mount, could recall even a sentence? He said, I meet people, nice people, who say all the time, Dr. Barker, I enjoy your talks. They're so humorous. And he said, well, I appreciate the compliment and the idea that I have some humor. He said, that's not my purpose. If the only takeaway that you can get from my words is one of my jokes, then I'm not fulfilling my role. The question next is, why did these wise women and men say what they did? And he said, because they were speaking the truth. The same thing that religious science ministers have been doing all along. Same thing that all the New Thought teachers, because they're speaking the truth, a truth that's always existed and will always continue to exist. There's always been the lighted lamp in the midst of darkness. There's always been in every generation someone who could see the light. I personally always think of Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was 100 years at least ahead of his time. There's always been those that would light a lamp in the darkness, and those who would speak of the light or write of the light. And that light is still here, and it always will be, and it's inside of every one of us. And Barker said, there will be wars, and there will be rumors of wars. And he went back to Isaiah saying, but it will never stop the light. With all of our negative imagining, it does not stop the light. All this stuff might prevent us from seeing it for a while, and we might claim it isn't there when things are raging around us, but it's there. When we lift our consciousness, we become aware of it, and we sense it. We sense that it's in us, and we sense that there's more to life than the things that you're viewing on cable TV. So let's get up in the morning with an intention to see life differently. The people are out there in the routine. Barker described the routine of getting up, doing the same thing every day, not thinking about their lives. He thought they were in hell. They get up, they do the same thing, they come home, they go to dinner, they fall asleep, they watch their television. He says, that's not living, that's not being, that's not experiencing. He said, a lot of these people are just watching life go by. He said, but there is a light, and there is an idea, and there is a creativity within you, and it's yours, and you can have it. In fact, you are it if you only wake up to it. You wake up to the light. The key idea in this talk, and in all of our talks for that matter, is you and your consciousness, the light that is within you, and the illumination that you bring. And the great men and the women of the past have all handed it down to us, to you. And all of them have said that their individual names were not important, but they said that what they wrote and what they shared is important. And that's really all we're trying to do here and now. Barker said, I have no interest if my name is known 100 years from now. It isn't the least bit important to me. He said, and I don't think too many teachers in the movement care about it either. He says, it's utterly unimportant to most of us. The thing that's important is the teaching and the idea that we pass on that torch, that you have it within you. The kingdom of good or God is at hand. It's within you, operating through you. He said, what I write is important. What I do is important. That's the answer to living. He said, because life is intelligence and action backed up by creative emotion and expressing itself, because that is in its nature. You're always expressing yourself, whether you're pleasant or unpleasant, when you're loving, when you're hating. He says, because you can't stop being cause becoming effects. If you think about it, you're always the cause of something becoming. You're always cause becoming effects. He said, I'm always cause becoming effect. So I'm always projecting, and so are you. And he said, I can control it when I want to. You can control it. He said, when I know joy, I'm projecting joy. If I'm to know pain, I would be projecting it, because I am always cause becoming effect. I'm always this experience. Now again, you have power, you can control it. I can control it. We don't control it creatively enough, though, he thought. He said we go off on all these side issues. We let it go off into negative trends of thought and expectations and all the rest. He said, when you enter this teaching, this is the job that you've taken on. He says it's easier to discipline the body than it is the mind. It's easier to discipline yourself in so many ways than disciplining your thought. It's much easier. But he said the center of the whole thing is your mind, your thinking, your consciousness, what it's been like being you. He said you can't dodge that. That's the reason every Thursday in the 2020s we're asking you, what has it been like being you? He said you try to dodge it and put it on to other people. He said I probably do it some of the time myself. But in the long run, I will realize that all that's been created in my life has happened by the use of my mind, just as I have programmed all the other areas of my life. I want to make sure to build up my consciousness with my affirmations. I want to build up my consciousness by reminding myself of the truth. So I would be tuning into any broadcast, any class, and just keep remembering the truth of who you are. He then went on to say, because I happen to believe what I teach, and I happen to believe what the great men and women who have preceded me taught, what they said, what they wrote, and the way they acted. I refuse to let my life be stupid. That was his famous line. And he said, I wish no thought would say amen to that. Just say to yourself, I refuse to let my life be stupid. If other people want to live their life that way, fine. He said, but I am intelligence acting with intelligence on intelligence. And that would be a great affirmation for all of us. I am intelligence acting with intelligence on intelligence. And because the whole universe is a system of intelligence, I am intelligence acting intelligently upon intelligence. The whole thing here is that. The whole thing is consciousness. And consciousness is the awareness of experience plus the capacity to project experience. So we're not going to have a stupid life or even a dull one, he said. You know, I've encountered so many people who just need a little bit of a nudge, a bit of a stirring up to remind them of how great they are. He said, it reminds me of Paul, the apostle, who said, stir up the gift of God that is within you. So he was wanting everybody to get stirred up about the gift of God that is within them. He must have been looking at all the faces out there and thinking, wake up, spirit inside of all of you. He was thinking of Paul at that point. Because that's what life is all about. Living, loving, experiencing life to the fullest. He said, we are the key, each and every one of us. I am the key to my door, you are the key to your door. In my world, I am the light, I am the salt, the beginning and the end. And the same goes for you in your world. You're the whole bit. We're all in this constant cycle of cause and effect. So I can start off tomorrow thinking, this is going to be a great day. This is going to be the best day of my life. By the time I reach my office, he said, I hopefully have convinced myself of it. And you know, people will know that when you're connected like that, people will know. They will be able to tell. So this is what we want to do. So why do the negatives happen to us? It's because we expect them or we accept them. Again, why do the negatives happen to us? Because we either expect them or we accept them. And I don't want to do that, he said. I refuse to plan for evil in any form. Now you might ask, aren't you ignoring the facts of the world? And he said, not at all. He said, I'm well aware of what's happening out there. I've read the newspapers, I've seen the news. They try their best to shape my perspective, but I won't let them do it. I won't let it shape my world. He said, I am the key to my experience. We can't just wander around in a supposed utopia without acknowledging reality. The world has facts. He says, they're all here. But what I think inside my mind, that's my business. And I believe there's a spiritual center in my mind. And I believe there's a spiritual center in your mind that responds to your thoughts and your deepest beliefs. So I always say, the mind in me knows what to do and does it. The spirit and life of life in me acts through me, giving me the right ideas at every moment. And I accept them. I use them with joy, enthusiasm, and power. There's an old phrase, and I might ruffle a few feathers here, I'll paraphrase it. It's as a spiritual treatment. For mine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Some, Barker said, may find my interpretation startling, but it's my truth. And with that, I conclude this lesson. But now I'd love to hear your thoughts. What stirs up the gift within you, the Spirit within you, how do you become the light, the cause in your world? Let's open up this discussion and share our experiences. We'll see you at the other side of the break. And so it is.